What's up, regulars? Today I'm going to be going over the spark plug replacement on 2005 Porsche Cayenne Turbo and Cayenne S. So let's go over some of the tools you'll need. Basically, just a couple Torx, some sockets, an E12 Torx socket, a triple square. Porsche recommends you do this service every 30,000 miles on a turbo and every 60,000 miles on the Cayenne S. So let's get started. As you can see, I'm taking off the engine beauty covers. You just turn these screws about a quarter turn, counterclockwise or clockwise, it doesn't really matter, and they'll just pop out. Now I remove the cover from the coil expansion tank. I also remove the cover from the washer bottle, and now I'll also remove this cover right here. And just keep removing the covers. I highly suggest you remove all the covers. It gives you a chance to inspect everything in your engine bay, and I'll show you for reasons. Also, don't forget, like I did, to take off the T20 Torx screw that's held on the windshield washer bottle neck. Okay, so let's get started on the driver's side of the engine. This is the easier of the two sides. As you can see right here, I'm disconnecting the wiring harness for the air pump. There's also a vacuum hose you need to disconnect. Right now, also I'm removing the 3 T40 bolts that hold the air pump on. You can see right here I'm trying to unclip the harness from the car, and now the air pump's removed. So getting straight into things, I'm using a T30 Torx. There's 4 bolts that hold on your coil pack covers. I'm going to remove those. Once you have those bolts removed, you're just going to lift in a straight up motion, and then you can unclip the harness from the coil packs. Be very careful when removing these and do not tug on the wires. You can break it very easy. Now, as you can see, I'm using my E12 Torx socket to loosen up all 4 bolts on the coil packs, and now I'm removing all 4 bolts from the coil packs. Be careful as to not drop these because you do not want to find them in the engine bay if you do. So now you can remove the coil packs. Just do a twist and pull method. You do not have to twist that much. Also, when removing your coil packs, check and inspect them like I just did. As you can see, I found oil on mine, which leads to a valve cover gasket. And now I'm removing the spark plugs with my 5/8 spark plug socket. If you do not have a locking extension, make sure to tape the spark plug socket to the extension. That way your spark plug socket does not get stuck in your spark plug hole and you have to try to fish it out. So as you can see, the spark plugs that came out of this engine are not factory. They don't look that bad. They show a good history for the engine. I'm not running rich or lean. These are the new spark plugs. These are Denso. They are an OEM branded spark plug that Porsche recommends. Also, you can see my gapping tool. Also, always inspect your coil packs. As you can see, this one had oil on it, which is a bad valve cover gasket. Also, it's cracked up there, so it definitely needs to be replaced. And as you can see, one of the colors does not match the other 3, which means one of these or 3 of them have already been replaced. Now, right now what I'm doing is I'm double checking the spark plug gap. Porsche recommends on the turbo a 0.8 millimeter gap. Even though these plugs are pre-gapped, it's always a good idea to double check your spark plug gap. And now you can see I'm replacing the spark plugs. Never use power tools on here and always thread them in by hand. This is an aluminum head, and you do not want to strip anything in here. It's a royal pain in the butt to try to correct anything like that. Once you're done, torque your spark plugs to 22 foot-pounds. Now, as you can see, I'm inserting the new coil packs. Just push them all the way in until they bottom out, and then you could put in your E12 bolt in all 4 of them. And then once you have those bolts, go ahead and tighten those to 7 foot-pounds. And then you can plug in all the coil packs. Once that's done, as you can see, I'm putting the cover on. It could be a little bit of a pain. There's 2 little grommets that it's held on to. And then now you're going to start putting on your T30 bolts. Also tighten these bolts up to 7 foot-pounds, or roughly. Just do not over-tighten them. And now you could reinstall your air pump in the reverse order of how you took it apart. And then you can hand thread in your T40 Torx bolts and tighten those down. And that's the easy side of the engine. Now we're going to move to the passenger side of the engine, and just like the driver's side, you start with removing your air pump. Once you remove your air pump, you're going to grab your 12mm triple square and your 16mm socket, and you're going to loosen this bolt and remove it. Okay, now you're going to remove the bracket that holds your vacuum pump for your brake booster. Because you can see I'm removing my 2 10mm bolts. Some cars have E10 sockets right here. Then disconnect the vacuum line right there and the harness, and then you can unclip it from the side right here. And then you can remove your vacuum pump assembly. So this part is pretty tricky. There's 3 E12 bolts that holds the air pump bracket. Also, you can see I'm disconnecting the vacuum line from this little clip and then the hose underneath it. These bolts are kind of hard to get to. As you can see, I'm pointing at one of them right here, and there's 2 more right next to them. So lucky for me, the last person who was in here only put 1 bolt back, and it just happened to be the easiest one to get to. And as you can see, after removing that 1 bolt, I could just lift up the air pump bracket. You have to do this step so you could remove the coil pack cover. If you do not, as you can see, my vehicle, the coil pack cover is broken. Then you're going to grab a 16mm socket, and you're going to loosen the bolt that holds your torque arm over there. Now you can grab your T30 Torx bit, and you can start removing the bolts that hold on your coil pack covers. Now just pull straight up and remove your coil pack covers. As you can see, mine is broken from the last person who worked on the car. Now, with the same T30 Torx bit, you're going to remove this ground right here on top of the torque arm bracket. And you're also going to unclip the harness for that coil pack. Now, as you can see, I'm grabbing my E12 torque socket, and I'm removing the bracket that holds on the torque arm. And it's off. So no, you're going to continue with your E12 socket, and you're going to remove all the bolts that hold on the coil packs, and you're going to unclip the coil packs from their harnesses. Like I said last time, be careful and do not pull on the wiring. Now pull your coil packs out with a twisting, pulling motion, and inspect them while you pull them out and check for stuff like oil or cracks. Once you do that, you can grab your 5/8 spark plug socket and you can start removing your spark plugs one by one. Don't forget to check the gaps in your spark plugs and make sure they're 0.8 millimeters, just like the other side. And congratulations, you're halfway through the hardest side. Now as you can see, you're going to start putting the new spark plugs in. Be careful, always thread your spark plugs in by hand, do not use power tools, and torque your spark plugs to 22 foot-pounds. Once your spark plugs are installed, now you can start reinstalling your coil packs, one by one. Just push them all the way down until they bottom out. Now that your coil packs are installed, now you can start installing your E12 torque socket bolts. And now you can plug in your wiring harness. As you can see, I plugged the second one in, and I realized that, and I unplugged it, because you're going to need it unplugged. For your torque arm bracket, make sure you use blue Loctite like what the factory used when you reinstall it. And now you can install it using your E12 torque socket. Once you have that on, you could go and plug the coil pack in, and then you could use your T30 torque socket and bolt on the ground. And once you have that done, you can start installing your coil pack cover. As you can see in a little bit, I struggled a little bit because this one is broken in half. Now you can start threading in your T30 Torx bolts. And remember to torque these bolts down to around 7 foot-pounds. Just do not over-tighten them. Once that's done, you can reinstall your torque arm with your 12mm triple square and your 16mm socket. Also, do not forget to tighten the other side of the torque arm that you loosened to be able to move it. Now, as you can see, I'm reinstalling the bolt for the air pump bracket. It is an E12 socket. Once that's tightened up, then you can start putting those hoses back into the clamps. And then you can grab your vacuum pump for your brake booster and start installing that with your 10mm bolts or your E10 socket. Make sure that you do not damage that vacuum line or else you will have a brake booster fault message. Alright, and now you can grab your air pump, connect the harness, bolt it in with your T40 Torx bolts, and then attach the hose to it. And that's your last major step to doing your spark plugs, and this is the hardest side. Don't forget to clean out the nest that the mice like to make in your car, you know? This is why I highly suggest that you take off all the covers of your engine so you can look for stuff like this. Now, as you can see, I'm installing all the beauty covers. Don't forget the T20 Torx screw that holds on the washer filler neck. And now you can put on your covers for your coolant expansion tank and the cover that goes on the driver's side. And you're good. Now don't forget the most important part of this. You need to drink a beer when you're done, unless of course you're not 21 or older. Now let's start her up. And then you can pull this thing out of the garage and take it for a rip. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you found this video informative and helpful. And if you have any questions, leave something in the comments. Like I said, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon.